So hello there, thanks ever so much for having us as a part of the conference schedule. My name's Jenny Kidd and I'm a reader in the School of Journalism, Media and Culture at Cardiff University, and I'm going to be presenting this talk on behalf of my colleagues Dr. Bethan Jones, who's also at Cardiff University, and Dr. Eva Nieto-McAvoy from King's College London in their Department for Digital Humanities. And we together are the Synthetic Pasts project team. I'll say more about the project in a moment. So we're sorry we haven't been able to join you in Istanbul, but we're delighted that we've been able to send over this presentation. If you do have any thoughts, comments, queries, feedback, we'd be very pleased to hear from you. So this work that I'm going to introduce today is a part of a broader project, as I said, the Synthetic Pasts project. This is a 2-year project funded by the Leverhulme Trust here in the United Kingdom. And what we're doing in that project is exploring how media fragments from the past are being remediated or animated through algorithmic systems and automation, and with what consequences then for how we remember. We're particularly interested in aspects of digital memory in this project. So we've been working with heritage sites and museums as one aspect of the project, and we'll say more about that work over the course of this presentation. But to put that kind of work in a kind of context of what else we've been doing in the project, we've actually been exploring these themes of automation, revival, and memory across a range of other different sorts of contexts as well. So, for example, we've been exploring how AI systems interact with personal and family memories. So we've been exploring what's going on in genealogy companies who increasingly are using these sorts of tools so that people can animate their kind of family trees or bring their ancestors back to life, as it were. We've been looking at work within the digital afterlife industry on the creation of death bots. We did a study of that a couple of years ago, which we've widely published. We've been looking at the creative industries more broadly, so looking at the revival of actors for films or artists for stage shows, things like that. And more recently, we've been looking at the context of crime and victims of crime as well. So it's a really broad study. As I say, you can find out more about that on the website. But what I thought I would do is start by showing a film that introduces the project and its kind of broad research questions.
These are my Spanish grandparents, Maria Luz Cabeza Reyero and Jesus Nieto Navarro, on their wedding day in 1948. I inherited this photograph when my abuela died a few years ago. She left it to me, she said, so that I could remember her as she was when she was young and happy. I miss her very much. And sometimes, I wish I could bring her back to life, just a little bit, hear her voice, or see her smile. And why not? Kim Kardashian got a visit from her dead father for her birthday. And they have been reanimating actors for films and ads for a while now. In honor of the 40th anniversary of Bruce Lee's death, Johnny Walker commissioned a digital reanimation of the martial arts master. There is even a Salvador Dali that welcomes you to his museum in Florida.
Greetings. I am Salvador Felipe Jacinto Dalí y Domenech, and I am back.
So I asked myself, if Kim can do it, why can't I? AI is now making it possible. For $10, Project December is one of several death bots, or Thanabots, that we can use to chat with our deceased loved ones. Reactions have ranged from enthusiastic to critical, and rightly so. Despite the moral panic, rituals for grieving, remembering our ancestors, and commemorating the past are far from new. From death masks to Victorian photographs of the dead, technology has always been intertwined with our desires to connect with the afterlife. The invention of the phonograph in the 19th century, for example, was behind the rise of spiritualism and seances during the same period. Necromancy, the art of conjuring the spirits of the dead, has a long history. And today, digital necromancy involves different practices. During the pandemic, there was a mini storm on Twitter when genealogy company MyHeritage launched Deep Nostalgia. Deep Nostalgia was advertised as a tool to reanimate photographs of our deceased ancestors. You add a photograph, press a button, and voila! Here I come, I thought. But there I was, sitting at my desk ready to press the animation button, when I couldn't bring myself to do it. Should I ask my father, her son, or my sister? I own the photo, but do I own her image, or her memory? And what would my grandmother think of coming back as a cyborg abuela? The more I thought about it, the more I realized it was an ethical minefield. This is what we investigate in Synthetic Pasts. It is a critical creative inquiry into what futures for personal and collective memory our algorithmic present anticipates and paves the way for. Stay tuned if you want to learn more about the project, tell us what you think about it, and crucially, know whether I revive my grandmother or not.
So I mentioned that we've got a work package which is looking at AI afterlives, as we've come to call them, within heritage context. We're looking at museums and heritage sites here, or GLAM institutions, galleries, libraries, archives and museums. And I thought I would just give you a couple of examples of the sorts of practice that we're interested in so you can get a sense of them and the ways in which they work. AI is, of course, a big kind of leaky term and encompasses lots of different approaches, some of which might be more kind of generative in how they approach AI afterlives than others. So here are a couple of examples. So Dali Lives, on the left-hand side here, is a project that was put together by the Dali Museum in Florida. And so here we have a video installation which was made in collaboration with an advertising agency. And so a visitor to the museum would walk in and they would be able to have a conversation, as it were, with Dali, maybe about his kind of his work or about his life, ask questions, and it would prompt answers. And there were many different answers that could be prompted. And what was interesting about the Dali Lives project, we thought, was that it was engaging with him, in relation to his past work, of course, but he was also, and I'm going to use the term aware, but of course not really, of the kind of current day surroundings. So he would know what the weather was like outside, or he would know, he would be carrying that day's New York Times, in his arms, and he would ask the visitor at the end of the conversation whether they wanted to take a selfie with him, which he would then kind of email to them or send to their mobile phone so that they could then go off and share it with their friends. So it was a kind of, quite interesting, quite fun project very interactive. On the right-hand side, you've got the USC Shoah Foundation's Dimensions in Testimony project, which I'm sure some of you will be familiar with. And this one enables people to ask questions and to prompt pre-recorded testimony from Holocaust survivors. It can be accessed in a number of different sorts of ways, and they've been doing some really interesting immersive kind of video capture in order to try and kind of future-proof, if you like, this archive of testimony. So that's another example on the right there. And then in the middle, we've got the Hello Vincent experience, which is trained on a corpus of 900 of the artist's letters, Vincent van Gogh. So it can generate responses to questions based on those texts in a kind of chatbot format. And so Hello Vincent is a much more kind of, generative approach. It kind of leans more into the affordances of generative AI for kind of, for storytelling in heritage contexts. So what we've been seeing across our project and over the last couple of years is that these kinds of approaches are becoming more familiar. But what we've also been seeing or hearing for a while now is that many cultural practitioners have very mixed feelings about AI's integration into visitor experiences in these sorts of ways. And this includes through 38 detailed interviews that we've done with cultural professionals, and in discussions we've been having across numerous workshops and interactions with the sector. Clearly, these sorts of approaches raise important questions. There is the custodianship role, of course, of cultural institutions to consider here, their claims to integrity, to authenticity, and to serious scholarship. There are questions about data quality and about governance, and of course questions about resourcing all of the time for heritage institutions, many of whom are, struggling, financially to meet the kind of, day-to-day costs of their operations. So there are lots of tensions here, but we think, or we hope at least, that these can be quite productive tensions, and that in navigating these issues, cultural institutions actually can be sites of critical thinking when it comes to the uses of AI, and also of ethical literacy as well. They can remind people that ideas about authenticity are not static, and that data is not only data, it's the traces of people that have been left for us to steward. So we know that GLAM sector professionals, galleries, libraries, archives and museums professionals are deeply kind of reflective and critical in their uses of these approaches. They've told us as much. But what we found in our work is that they often face competing pulls from different stakeholders that they don't always feel prepared to navigate. And that includes, of course, now tech companies as well, who are keen to be working with them in these ways. So what we decided to do was to work collaboratively with the sector to produce a resource so that people can start and lead conversations about these sorts of approaches within their institutions. So we secured some funding to work collaboratively with sector representatives to produce a resource. And that started then with a series of workshops with practitioners in a range of different roles. So at these workshops, what we did was we explored these practices through activities and through reflective exercises. And we had a really good discussion with them about what they see as being the kind of real challenges and opportunities when it comes to doing this work. So we talked a lot in those discussions about values and about whether, how and under what circumstances using AI, including creating AI Afterlives, fitted with participants' institutional, professional and even their personal values. And participants in these discussions talked a lot about commemoration, they talked about legacy, they talked about consent, they talked about death, they talked about digital remains. Really interesting discussions that we had over the course of those workshops. And to have those workshops, or to host those workshops, we collaborated with Yellow Brick, who are a creative studio who are based locally to us in Cardiff. And they produced some really great resources to spark discussion over the course of those meetings. So this on the left here you can see is Who Owns a Memory, which is a multimedia exploration of these issues. Yellow Brick have a really broad portfolio of work in this area. They've worked lots with heritage organisations, including in partnership with myself in the past, to deliver playful, experiential, yet ethically attuned digital solutions. So it was great to be working with them again. So we then developed and road tested a resource, refining it, getting feedback on it, and then producing this workbook then as a result. So as you can see, there's a couple of kind of screen grabs here from inside the workbook. It's a really kind of early stage exercise. It's super lo-fi. It's designed to be as accessible for people as possible. And it prompts people who are interested in these topics to think about whether an AI afterlife is a good fit for their work, or to help them to articulate perhaps why it might not be a good fit, or isn't for now, or isn't for this particular project or for this particular collection. So it's aimed at people who are relatively new to these sorts of approaches. And we're hopeful, of course, that some of you might want to use it or share it with your colleagues. So the workbook is available via the project website. It's available in a number of different formats. That's the cover there. You can download it here. You can use an interactive online version if you're interested in doing so. And there's also an e-text super accessible version available there as well for anybody who's using kind of assistive softwares. Who's it for? Well, it's for museums, galleries, libraries and archives who are or might be considering AI afterlife projects. It's for curators, producers, educators, digital teams who want to explore new tools. It's for technology companies and developers who maybe want to better understand the values and priorities that guide heritage institutions in their digital work, and also for community partners and stakeholders who might be curious about how AI afterlives might shape how they tell stories and work with heritage. So there's also, it's worth saying here, a link to a number of different kind of museums and heritage case studies, and also and we think this is a great resource whether you're making AI afterlives or not, a link here which will take you to a range of different kind of support resources for the responsible use of AI in cultural heritage contexts. So there's lots of different tools, resources and workbooks and things like that that you can access here too. So that's us, and that's our workbook. As I say, you can find out more about the project on the website. You can look at the workbook. You can find your way through it, find out more about what we mean by AI afterlives and working ethically in this space. And yeah, please do get in touch if you have any queries about that or any feedback. Thank you very much for your attention from myself, Jenny, and also Bethan and Ava. You can contact us via the project website or via email.